Good morning to all. I am S. Kalaivani, Assistant Professor of English, JJ College of Arts and Science, Pudukkottai. Now I am taking the subject Introduction to Literature. Unit 1, Literary Forms. So, literary forms mean how text is structured rather than how it is written or the subjects it covers. English literature can be categorized into several primary literary forms, each with unique characteristics and convention. And now we are going to see the title Poetry and Poetic Forms. Poetry is a type of literature that conveys a thought, describes a scene, or tells a story in a concentrated lyrical arrangements of words. Poem can be structured with rhyming lines and meter. The rhythm and emphasis of a line based on syllabic beats. Poem can be a free form which follows no form structure, and poem is the art of rhythmical composition written or spoken for exciting pleasure by beautiful, imaginative, or elevated thoughts. The form of poetry is sonnet. Sonnet is a type of 14-line poem. Traditionally, the 14 lines of a sonnet consist of an octave, that means two quatrain making up a stanza of 8 lines, and a sestet, a stanza of 6 lines. Sonnets generally use a meter of iambic pentameter and follows a set of rhyme scheme. Within these general guidelines for what make a sonnet, there are a wide variety of variations. The most two common sonnet variations are the literary sonnet, also called a Petrarchan sonnet, and the English sonnet, also called Shakespearean sonnet. Petrarchan sonnet. Although the form of sonnet is said to have been invented by Giacomo da Lettini in 13th century, it was popularized by a poet from Tuscany named Francisco Petrarch, who used the form to write poem expressing his unrequited love for a woman named Laura. The original form of the Italian sonnet is therefore known as the Petrarchan sonnet. Consisting of 14 lines total, the poem begins with two quatrain, that is stanza of 4 lines, that make up a unit called an octave, and the poem ends with two tercet, stanza of 3 lines, that makes up a single 6 line stanza called sestet. The standard rhyme scheme for the octave is ABABA, ABBA, while the rhyme scheme for the sestet is either CDEDCE or CDCDCD. And the English sonnet. The English poet Thomas Yatt introduced the sonnet to be English language in 16th century by translating the work of Petrarch from Italian. Yatt contemporary, the Earl of Surrey, then made innovation to the form by introducing a new structure and rhyme scheme, which became a defining characteristics of the English sonnet. The 14 lines are all written in iambic pentameter and are taken up by 3 quatrain of 4 lines, followed by a 2-line couplet. The lines follows the rhyme scheme ABAB, CD, EF, In English sonnet, the turn typically occurs in the third quatrain, but William Shakespeare broke from this rule by frequently situating the turn in a final couplet of his sonnet. In fact, Shakespeare quickly became the English sonnet's most venerated practitioner, and the English sonnet is often referred as the Shakespearean sonnet as a result. In English sonnet, the turn typically occur. in three quatrain, but William Shakespeare broke from his rule by frequently situating the turn in the final couplet of his sonnet. In fact, Shakespeare quickly became the English sonnet's most venerated practitioner, and the English sonnet is often referred to as Shakespearean sonnet. The English sonnet is sometimes also referred to as the Elizabethan sonnet. This famous example by Shakespeare's sonnet rhyme scheme is A B A B C D C D E F E F G G. An ode. An ode from ancient Greek is a type of lyric poetry with its origin in ancient Greece. The word ode comes from the Greek word eidin, meaning to sing. An ode is a formal lyric poem that is written in celebration, appreciation, or dedication. They are generally directed at some specific person, place, idea, or object. Ode are elaborately structured poems praising or glorifying an event or individual, describing nature intellectually as well as emotionally. A classic ode is structured in three major parts. There are a strophe, antistrophe, and epode. Different forms such as homostrophic ode or irregular ode also entered. Greek ode were originally poetic pieces performed with musical accompaniment. As time passed on, they gradually became known as the personal lyric composition, whether sung or merely recited. Primarily, instruments used were the lyre, the Greek instrument. The other type of ode is Pindaric ode. Pindaric ode, also called Greek ode, follow the form and style of the ancient Greek poet Pindar. These employ a tripartite structure consisting of the strophe, antistrophe, and epode. The ancient Greece ode would have been performed on a stage to musical accompaniment. The chorus would deliver the strophe from one side of the stage, then move to the opposite side to deliver the antistrophe, and finally to center stage for the epode. An elegy. An elegy is a poem of serious reflection, especially on mourning the loss of someone who died. Elegies are defined by their subject matter and don't have to follow any specific forms in terms of meter, rhyme, or structure. Some additional key details of elegies. Because elegies focuses on emotional experience of the poet, they are generally written in the first person. Typically, elegies end on a somewhat hopeful note, with the poet reconciling him or herself to the death and ultimately discovering some form of consolation. The poetic form known as the elegiac stanza, which has a specific meter and rhyme scheme, is different from an elegy. Another type of elegy is the pastoral elegy, which is typically about a deceased shepherd. The pastoral elegy can be seen as an elegy written within the tradition of pastoral poetry, whose roots can be tracked back to ancient Greek and Roman poetry about the rustic lives of rural dwelling poets. Pastoral poetry has been written throughout history from ancient times through today, and the pastoral elegy is just one type of pastoral poetry. Next one, lyrical poetry. So, lyric poetry is a formal type of poetry which expresses the personal emotion or feelings typically spoken in the first person. The term for both modern lyric poetry or modern song lyric derives from the form of ancient Greek literature. The Greek lyric, which was defined by its musical accompaniment, usually on a stringed instrument known as a kithara, a seven stringed lyre. It is not equivalent to song lyric, though song lyric are often in a lyric mode, and it is also not equivalent to ancient Greek lyric poetry, which was principally limited to song lyric or chanted verse. The term owes its importance in literary theory to the division developed by Aristotle among three broad categories of poetry: lyrical, dramatic, and epic. Lyric poetry is one of the earliest form of literature. And final one, ballad. Ballad is a type of poem that tells a story and was traditionally set to music. English language ballads are typically composed of four-line stanzas that follows as AB rhyme scheme. The ballad is one of the oldest poetic form in English. There are so many different types of ballad that giving one strict definition to fit all the variation would be nearly impossible. The simplest way to think of a ballad is as a song or poem that tells a story and has a bouncy rhyme or rhyme scheme. Traditional ballads are written in a meter called common matter, which consists of alternating lines of iambic pentameter and with lines of iambic trimeter. Many ballads have a refrain, a line or stanza that repeats throughout the poem, much like the chorus of modern day songs. The ballad has three types. First one, folk ballad. Anonymous ballads that are passed down orally and recount tragic, comic, or heroic stories. Examples include Barbara Allen and Johnny Henry. Broadside ballad. Mass produced ballads for the public. Literary ballads, originally composition written by single authors. Thanks for watching.